Cool.
Hello everyone, welcome to our first session for about a year, I would say. It's been a while we met last time. We've been pretty busy with a lot of stuff going on, so a lot of updates. We will not be able to cover all of them, but more than happy that we found some time and you find some time to meet us here.
We had to bubble up a lot of updates and we really wanted to share them all at once. But really, so much has changed in a year. We always, if you remember on our previous sessions, we talked about how AI is changing every day. Imagine what has happened in a year ever since. So I think we wanted to do a quick couple of updates of the things that we feel that have a very big impact when it comes to generative AI. And we all wanted to share some of the progress that we made ourselves.
Yep, absolutely. Jumping directly to the biggest updates, as you're all already aware, and you've been using the adoption of the AI and the AI tools, the main from the frontier companies. They developed themselves from only model provider to actually tool provider that can amplify not only the coding abilities but everything related to the day-to-day work. We're talking about OpenAI Codex and Claude from Anthropic. So nowadays with these tools you can do much more than what was at the beginning. The frontier in this, the first one was of course Anthropic when they released the Claude Code. And after that, they were followed by Codex.
Imagine we never talked about Claude Code so far on our sessions.
Yeah. And absolutely, we start using Claude Code actively. I think June last year when it became possible to log in with your subscription. Because before that, actually, it was everything was on API pricing, which fortunately doesn't make Opus very, how to say,
viable.
Attractive. Viable is a better word, I would say. But yeah, and of course, the open source models catch up a bit. There was a shift from, for example, US-based open source models from Meta to in nowadays even Meta become fully closed. They stop providing open source models after the Llama 4 failure, I would say. And now we have the GPT open source model also was pretty nice, but it was like a checkbox. Okay, we have one open source model because we OpenAI.
Anyway, well, it was very good when they showed.
It was very good.
Remember how much attraction it gained, but things changed.
It's a general model.
Yeah, things changed so fast since then.
And nowadays,
we kind of forgot about it already.
And nowadays, it's only it's open source alternative. We can name it that. Only actually Chinese models are very good. We didn't play much with Mistral, to be honest. We just discussed that. It's been a while. There could be some good use cases, but definitely the Chinese open source models are definitely.
How would you summarize what are the highlights for the last year? Because so much has happened, but what do you think are the best things that really shine and gain impact to everybody?
I think the best thing is that the involvement of Claude Code and Codex in general becoming mainstream tools for not only coding but also day-to-day work, everything related with computer. Yeah, and everything involved with computer, people can do much more today, and that's one of our main topic. So more than happy to share with you some of the use cases that we've been working on both tools, and yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would add that although we were always in sync with news and how the industry is developing, to be honest, I didn't know that we will get this far in terms of tooling and how tooling actually changes. We always thought that models bring the innovation, but we saw in the last year how the harnesses and the tools make the bigger difference nowadays, because the models are very capable. They were capable a year ago, but we never had the tools that we can actually implement them. And therefore, so many people around us have actually noticed. You've probably seen how Anthropic is not able to cope with the demand for Claude Code, and this is it was a software development tool, and now it's being used to to do so many things. So it's really exciting times, again, in generative AI. Maybe a year from now, in May 2027, imagine what we're going to be talking about.
We missed one very important innovation that happened, and this was actually OpenAI, which also brings
Yes.
a lot of the Gen AI capabilities to the, actually it was Quobot at the beginning.
Quobot, yeah.
And bring a lot of
so much drama there as well.
Yeah, bring the Gen AI capabilities to the mass users. You know, we'll discuss later about our framework, but make it possible for the users to have some continuous work done without interaction of the users. Actually, some autonomy. Let's say.
You bring up such a great point. How much the industry has followed open source and innovation coming from individuals, because OpenClaw came in January, and now Microsoft, Google, and AWS have their own versions of OpenClaw that they offer to the enterprise. So a single person has created a separate industry, I would say, that people are using or selling to other folks. So this is an example of
just for a few months.
Yeah, between January and May.
Yeah,
pretty much. It's just amazing what one idea of using generative AI can bring to the table. So
no, absolutely. It's in today's world, it's not much about the models. It's more about the, as people say, the harness around the model.
And the idea.
Yeah. And there's, by the way, when we are talking, it's not about the models. It's the models itself, especially from the frontier web. As we always said, they are very different, and they come with different package. So you cannot compare open source model with a closed source model, because actually you don't know what behind the scene you have as a model. So it's not only the tool, it's purely the model capabilities, what the model can do, what kind of tools can use, how well it can use them, how aware of them is, how well trained of these tools, what's context, of course, all this kind of things.
And one last thing, one of the bigger differences from the previous years is that for the first time, actually, the vendors who are creating the models are following the strategy, and their strategy changes based on the demand from the business, because they're putting a lot more agentic training and capabilities compared to general knowledge within these models. We have so many coding models nowadays that they're putting much more effort, because they can sell them back to the enterprise, or the direct customers will benefit more from them than just having a gigantic model that knows all, but it's not capable not as capable in a specific domain like coding. So this has changed drastically especially in the last 6 months. Even the open source, open weight models, they want to be agentic first, because that can be integrated into OpenClaw, Hermes, and other agents that are now very popular amongst people.
Yep. So let's move on with our first main topic for today. Of course, we will not have enough time to cover all the updates. They're enormous for 1 year. As you know, previously we had this kind of sessions each month. But yeah. So what we can do with Claude and Codex today, apart from the coding part?
Yeah, so as we said, tools have changed a lot, models as well, but tools have really, a lot of effort has been put into tools. What we started using, as Nikki said, back in June 2025, we started heavily working with Claude Code as the first harness who really showed the capabilities. OpenAI followed suit afterwards with Codex. Initially, Codex and the Gemini CLI were not as capable as the Claude Code, or maybe not as focused on solving real-world problems as Claude Code was initially. And as things progressed and the vendors realized that this can actually sell a lot of usage back to the businesses, they made first they started creating apps, which was a major change. CLIs are very capable, but they are typically integrated into a process, a workflow, maybe.
And it's hard to use from the regular
Yeah,
users.
yeah.
I mean, to
Yeah.
it
Nobody
doesn't.
we know actually wants to use a CLI if they're not in, in the
And we have
space.
heavy CLI users. I
Yes,
mean, it's
yes.
a bit, but yeah, just because we have.
But if you really want to intrude the general public, you need to make it as simple as possible. So what they did is they transitioned over the concept from ChatGPT or the mainstream chat applications, imported it over into an application that both can reason over your question and execute at the same time. And when you combine that with connectors, MCP servers, I mean, we didn't even talk about MCP servers that much in the last session.
But they're almost, I would say, this level of
a whole
abstraction,
generation
it doesn't matter. There were also skills after that,
Yes.
a lot of slash commands. I mean, it's just
Yeah, and if we think about it if we did kind of put the technology aside a bit, the specifics, and we think about the concept, having a tool that can actually have access to most of your information by default. I mean, if you think about your emails and the artifacts that you generate on a daily basis from your work, if you have access to that, and if you have access to your local file system, combining that with the newest kind of versions of the models like GPT 5.5 and Opus and the others, you have a tool that you can quickly replicate a lot of the work that you do. I mean, most of the things that we do today are connecting two systems together. I like to give this example where we constantly export information from one system, and we give what we think it needs to change, or we process the information and we put it in another system. So the human was always sort of a connection point between two systems in the enterprise. And now we have a chance to, instead of us being the bottleneck a bit, we put a skill, and we create a pattern of work within these tools, and we can execute it every day. So that really makes a difference. And what we've seen from our work with people is that it's really highly adoptable. I mean, they grasp the concept very quickly, even if they're not in IT. Once you show them how the workflow is done and how close to them in terms of the result it is, because we're going to talk about use cases in a second. The results come really fast, and we've seen an explosion in Codex usage based on that. I mean, this is the most high adoptable tool. I would say it's much better than ChatGPT from an adoption perspective, because people can see the results.
I can that it's very similar to the Anthropic Quote. I mean,
exactly.
It's people can use it for. We had multiple use cases from non-IT people using it a lot with, for example, Microsoft Office, heavy Excel work, with some very heavy Excel spreadsheet with a lot of tabs, thousands of rows, and people were amazed. I mean, they can't believe. I mean, nowadays you don't even need to go to Excel to do it by yourself. It's crazy.
You just need to have curiosity. We've given this to when we helped out people that only in a few minutes, believe me, only in a few minutes, they were telling me they were able to complete tasks that they didn't thought were possible. Because you can instruct the system to go through your documents, rearrange them in a specific way, then export this information into a summary, put it in an email, put it in SharePoint. I mean, there's so many things when you think about how unconnected these systems are. You have a piece of technology that you can talk to, and you can connect these systems together and work as one, which
in whatever format you would like.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
I mean, recently people start adopting a lot of, because we as an IT people are very familiar and frequently using the MD files for reading stuff. And now
even that is going away now.
Even that is going away, and people start using HTMLs for everything. No more presentations. It's much easier and better.
I think the general adoption problem in AI was always been, how do you get beyond the chat interface? Like, the chat interface was great, and it
for the CLI, I would say.
Even the CLI, but
it's still chat.
for the mass adoption, you have the first year of AI where everybody was amazed how this thing can respond, but then it lost a lot of the momentum because okay, it can answer some of these questions that I have, but how do I use it in my work afterwards? I have to copy and paste, and people didn't want to do that. They still expect magic from AI. I mean, we're still treating as a black box, and you want this to work across everything that you do. I mean, that's how it was marketed. So necessarily, it had to get to the next point, which is going beyond the coding assistant, because coding generates text, and generating that executable code can actually do work for you. So from coding assistants, they became work platforms. That's how we'll treat them. And yeah, I mean, it's been massive in the last 3 months. And I think both OpenAI and Claude being the biggest actors right now, probably Gemini will be as well, since they hold a lot of personal data like emails, and
Sure.
people will be able to use that as well. But both Claude and Codex are aiming to fix that problem that people have. How do you actually help me in my daily workflow? And from a Claude perspective, they were the pioneers in a lot of these things. For the people who are more in sync with the changes, you probably have seen Codex, Claude Code work, which was the first step. They said, okay, we will give you a virtual environment where you can say, okay, work with my local documents, connect to my email, export this information. And it's positioned to be an isolated environment because they have to be security conscious of how you're dealing with your data. But they've made a lot of different helpful things, like you can work with your information from the phone. You can instruct your agent to pick information from your email or create your document directly on your laptop while you're traveling somewhere. For some people, that's going to be very helpful, super helpful, I would think. And Codex came around. They created a very good UI that's super close to ChatGPT, and that helps people to start very quickly.
And do the shift.
Yes. And when you add the concept of skills, where, okay, I will teach you what I do every day. I will show you. I extract this report. I change these parameters. I get a new template in, and then I put a task in Jira. You show this to the system, and then when you say, okay, create this as a skill, and now you have a pattern of work that can be repeatable on your morning. With just a couple of words, you can say, just run this. The thing that I taught you yesterday, just run this, and it will execute it autonomously. I mean, what can you ask? What more can you ask? It's a big selling point to enterprises. Now, the downside is obviously that would incur much more usage in terms of tokens, and therefore the cost will be greater. But you want to spend tokens. At the end of the day, you want to use AI if it solves the problems you were not able to solve before. So if the trade-off is just paying for it, I think it's worth it.
And this is coming as a second phase. So we
Yes.
already have the companies already have the time to work on the adoption of the AI tools. This is what we see especially in the large enterprises, but also in the small businesses. People have been working a lot to make sure that people are aware, people can use it, they can connect what they can do actually with these models, and with the tools mainly, not only the models. And in nowadays, people start focusing more about how the other things, how we can expand the usage. But they already have some proof that actually these tools can do some work. They already have some familiar. They become a little bit familiar to a different extent based on the company, of the specific job position. But nowadays, for example, the developers, I don't know any developer who is, not using the AI tools, and in the past that was not the case. I'm sure that it would be pretty similar with the other jobs. I mean, now people start
Yes.
adopting into the other domains, the other verticals, and
Any business, pretty
any
much.
business, any business, and the main driver for this is exactly switching from this chatbot to the tools which are more like this agentic pattern around these tools where they can do more autonomously, more effectively, and people are happy to pay for that.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a reasonable question to ask, why not just use Open Code for this? Because you can also give it a task and execute. But a lot of people are still very cautious. They want to have control over the process. They don't want to give their work to fully autonomous agents, especially the work, their business is. We will probably get there, but we treat these current UIs as that middle step between fully autonomous agents where you just give it work, you don't care, you're only looking at the result. Where here you need to teach it, you need to, you need to monitor how things play out. Maybe you just give it a chunk of your work today that it needs to complete, and the rest you will do yourself. So people like that step because they still feel they are in control when they're doing things. But the way the technology is moving, especially with the recent changes in what OpenAI has announced with workplace agents and what Code with its own autonomous versions and the SDKs, I think probably by next year we will see just platforms that we will just give work to these agents, and we're going to be expecting the results because they will have much more belief that it works well. And especially if it's coming in real cloud platforms where things are more governed, not running on your computer or just from a CLI, especially how Claude Code and Claude Bot and Hermes are currently working. So we're expecting some announcements. We have some first-hand dealings with both Microsoft and the other vendors. So we know a lot of exciting things are coming in the next couple of months as autonomous agents. But for now, where things are really positioned and where people are really starting to experiment and the adoption is great is these tools. I want to highlight just a few examples of what we've seen. What's a real game changer is the ability to get to your email and to your office data. That's what we've seen. It's both vendors have actively worked on this and made it available. The other things that are gonna be even will have a lot of traction is exposing this capability into familiar interfaces like Microsoft Teams, where you can invoke this as a channel. This will make the adoption even better because it's always easier if you present a current interface rather than giving them a new one they need to learn. But Codex especially has been adopted very well. I mean, it's a chat interface. You just give it skills, and you need to explain the new principles. But once you do that, and especially if you pre-create some of the business use cases that are similar across the environment, where people would maybe fill out their timesheets. I mean, this is applicable to everyone. Or you would have a morning brief. That's a very typical use case where you will start your day and something has looked in your emails, has looked at your chats, has looked at the changes of your current files, and has made assumptions and has reasoned over these changes. And I told you, okay, I think we need to do these things today with urgency, and basically kicking your day off with, you don't do anything. You just start your day and it's already there for you. So this is here now with these tools.
And it is here in the enterprises. In your work, it's not only here, as you said, about the Open Code, about Hermes. These are great tools that you can play with it. You can smell, you can get some kind of taste what is coming. But still, this is already in the enterprise. It's already, you can use it very well. And when you said about the files, actually, Anthropic was the was first providing the models and actually their tool the ability to work very well with your local computer. You know, ChatGPT, they also do this computer use, etc. But Anthropic was very good at this work, and people really can, let's say, I would say, push the ability of these models to the limits. We're discussing about some people searching for their specific pattern within their files. They not even using the operating system interface anymore for doing jobs and things which are related to the operating system. For example, when I need to do something, I'm not searching anymore how to do it. To change, even to extend my monitor, or to you know, to enable this, or I have some issues, let's say, with whatever networking, anything. I'm just saying to, for example, to Claude, and Claude is very good with that. You're giving full permissions. Of course, this have some, or you know, there's some improvement with adaptive permissions, etc. But in general, nowadays the models are very good and the tools are very good of using your computer. First was Anthropic, and with recent updates, actually, I would say maybe GPT 5.5, actually they catch up with the ability of the tools to use this kind of, how to say, to become to the same level of capabilities of using tools.
Yeah, 5.4 and 5.5 were specifically trained on browser use, so they can actively work with within your the means of your browser. Actually, they have an integrated browser in Codex now, so you can see.
You don't have to go out of the application.
I mean, we didn't have any sessions to talk about this, but what OpenAI was doing all of this time was they were trying to combine the browser technology that they created, the autonomous browsing, and that was in Atlas, the ChatGPT interface, and the coding experience into one. So we're expecting, you know, at some point this will be a single client that will be running on your machine or in the cloud. And
this is exactly the same as what Claude did. I mean, now they have all the tools combining within one single application.
And probably 5% of people know currently that you can instruct these agents, especially if you're on a Mac, because it's easier with the APIs, to look at a specific screen. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a browser. Go and open Autodesk or Photoshop and do something on that screen, and you know, do some work for me as part of a workflow. That is already here. It's here.
Yeah, you can even ask the models to observe your work and to provide you suggestion how what you can improve, what can be automated from your day-to-day task, how this can be done. Actually, you don't care much about how. You care more about what.
The people who've never been in IT don't know how difficult it is to create an RPA system and to work on this and just create all of the workflow so it doesn't break and adapts to the changes. So, I mean, it's extraordinary what you can do now.
Yeah, and especially this, how to say, finding patterns between all of the systems that you're using, all of the files that you're using for your day-to-day work, the news sources, the information sources, maybe news, another email, or whatever, letters, the Slack integration, all of these teams, as Nikki said, you know, participation from these models to the meetings, helping with the transcribe, aggregating this, bringing new ideas. You have totally different, how to say, level of knowledge advisory here comparing to 1 year, and not only because of the actual model advancement, but everything built around the model, all the tooling built around the models, and the integration, I would say, with the system.
I think both of us are a good advertisement for these tools, because we've ever since we started using them heavily, we purposely don't want to use another UI if we don't have to. Like, if I unless it's super necessary, I will try and do the whole work from Codex. And that mentality actually teaches you a lot, because it teaches you how to create the process inside of the tool. And once you automate it, it gives you the next idea. What can I do next here? And actually, I think we're very good at delivering that back to other people, like explaining this and teaching them how to do it. because at some point, this will be an essential skill. It wouldn't be just a nice to have. It will be, we feel that it will be required from employers and from others to be able to be very proficient at using these tools. So you will be able to work with so much more information. You will be The biggest difference for us is ever since we started using generative AI heavily, we became self-sufficient. We became,
Okay.
I don't want to ask other people to do something for me because and take up from their time if I can do it myself now.
With the help of AI.
Yes.
And
that's the whole point, right?
And in most cases, you'll be much faster because
Yeah,
all of these communication
the
channels.
friction
actually,
and
exactly.
everything.
People, yeah, we say it multiple times, but yeah, we are the bottleneck in the communication and the work.
Talking about that, because we feel that it's a great time to learn this. We want to give back to the community, and we want to do a session specifically on how you can work with these tools from the perspective of work. I mean, from general work, not coding, but for everyone pretty much, how you can use both Codex and Claude. So we're going to be doing an event.
Yeah, there will be a link in the description where you can sign up. It will be purely focusing on Codex and Quote and what you can do with what you can automate in your day-to-day work. We'll share some experience that we've been working with our customers, and yeah, make sure to check it in the description.
Yeah, I think it's good to show people because especially if that's how I perceive it. If you feel that somebody else is excited about something, there's a high chance that you're actually you may check it out as well. Yeah. And the entry point is very low. I mean, right now most people can use Codex if they pay for ChatGPT, even for the $20 tier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So not much. How to say again? We weren't able to cover all the updates. There were much more related even to this, just to these two tools.
Yes.
As you said, it's very interesting, this shift from even from IT people, for example, with R&D development, this shift between the COI interface and actual, the application. It's also very, brings something to me related to you trusting more the system. You have more, it's building the confidence for you,
right.
in you, and you believe that you don't have to look at the code base. You don't have to, you don't need the ID in order to go to check what's changed.
Don't scare people.
Don't, there's some level of how to say capabilities when you learn how to use these tools appropriately. You can trust them, and they can do exceptional work. We'll talk about this in a minute. Right. So, anything else that?
I mean, there's so many things around these tools. Like I said, every day working with people, because it's interesting. The more people you give these tools to, the more you interact with them, they actually have great ideas that you didn't think about or the vendor didn't think about. So the combined effort and the combined minds of people who are using the tools make up new use cases. For us, is we've shared before that we are in the enterprise. We actually seeing how business uses AI, not just we're not just experimenters and enthusiasts. We actually do this for a living, and from the perspective of kind of real-time applications, connecting to the data sources that were disconnected before is the real value. I personally really like how you can manage tasks and you can do the updates of systems like Confluence, Jira, ServiceNow tickets. Most of these systems already had APIs. You don't have to go through them through the browser. For us as administrators of cloud environments, that has also been very helpful in automating our daily work as well. But yeah, we're going to talk about this more in detail on that on that session we're going to do. We're kind of excited about it. From the past, for the people who know us, when we are excited about it with something, we typically do a session just to share the information out. So yeah. Cool.
So that was. I mean, if we can aggregate quickly and how to say compress of the stuff, but in short, in nowadays you can use these tools for actually every day-to-day work. You just need to think about how to adapt them, and make sure to sign up for the session that we plan to do soon, and we'll show you some of the major use cases that you can use. Moving forward to something, how to say, a little bit more, how to say, I would not say hidden, but when people became excited, for something, they actually losing their mind, I would say a bit. And when they are losing their mind, actually they forgot about the important things. And security, governance, these become a little bit, how to say, behind the scene. So it's very important to know that I'm not sure how much of you heard about the EU AI Act, and what does it matter to you? What does it matter to the companies? We're discussing about the focus nowadays, that where people are first was focusing on the adoption, and after that usually start thinking about the governance behind this adoption. So in today's session, we would like to just share a few tips with you about what the EU AI Act is about, and this is of course not how to say legal session or something like this, and it's more about making sure that the companies knows what is this, and how they can be prepared for what is coming. In general, the EU is not trying to slow down the AI adoption, for sure. They just want to make sure that the adoption is done in informed and how to say appropriate way. So the companies are aware of how the AI is used, for what kind of purposes is used, where is used, how this is impacting normal people lives, and etc. And to have, of course, the transparency evidence. So in general, maybe we can start with first. It's really important to remember that you cannot govern the invisible AI. So if you're a company which is using AI, adopting AI, your first step is to know where AI is used already, and what kind of AI is used. So one very important thing also, it's a lot of you may say that but this is shifted multiple times, it was delayed, so it will not come soon. Actually, it's already in place, it's already adopted, it is adopted in multiple stages. Of course, it started with some not that strict, let's say, and use cases. But the important thing is also to remember that the preparation for this is it will take time, right? So you cannot govern something or train people or do some quick company transformation in a month or two for your companies. So it's really important that and you understand that this will not appear from nowhere at some point. It's already active, and even that high risk deadlines may be later. You should start thinking, and you should know, because also people do not understand that risk is not based on the actual tool that you're using. For example, you may say that I'm using Chinese model. Of course, okay, there is with some models is bigger, but it's more like for the specific use case and how, again, as we said, how you're using it, where you run your AI again, for what things you're trying to do. So it's really important to have this kind of inventory, the training, some kind of policies to put in place, to review the vendors and technical controls. This would definitely something that will help. Some people, as we are talking about, and they are partially right. You know, when you're using, for example, as you said, Copilot and for Cowork or Codex, for sure, these companies, the frontier companies, put it more effort of building some kind of governance around the models. We have a lot of examples of the enterprises where there's some content filtering, etc., some guardrails around these models. They put much more effort on this. But when you start using, for example, you know, open source models, or like as we mentioned, Hermes or OpenQual, they definitely have a little bit more things that needs to be tweaked. However, what I'm trying to double down is that even if you're using the enterprise tools, again, it is really important the purpose that you're using it. And we can give some examples, like it's one thing to do a meeting summarization, as Nick mentioned, for example, from your meetings, Teams meetings. And it's totally different thing that you should pay more attention is if you do some, if you are ranking job candidates, for example, if you're comparing the CVs, or you do some kind of evaluation of your current employees, or especially, or if you're using the AI in the regulated industry. This is totally different things comparing to the like meetings or doing some regular chatbot in your website, which is helping client navigating to it or choose better which kind of tool to use. So if you can remember one thing, it's do not start by asking which model you use. Start asking yourself about what AI is doing for and how in your business processes, and which use cases you're applying the AI for what, and trying to think about where, when you're unsure about if this is maybe impacted from the EU AI Act, it's yeah, it's pretty, that should be a sign. I should think about this more. It's, yeah, the critical things that companies should be aware about this EU AI Act, I would say it's like, we can summarize them like several, I would say 6 or 7 things. So the first one is AI literacy. So this is like the EU AI Act explains this is a skill. So knowledge, understanding, that helps providers and people to understand, you know, how it's not just general training, if we can say it that way. It's just knowledge of people understanding how they can use the AI and the impact of using the AI. They should understand when they're using these tools around that we discussed, how this may impact not only their work. As I said, this is very hard because people become very excited. Okay, now I can do my job much faster, and they, you know, they start thinking how much more things they can automate, and they do not think about the actual impact of this automation. So it's really important people to have this kind of awareness, especially after we solve, as we discussed earlier, the main challenge, which was the adoption, of course. So it's even the EU, how to say, realize that it's much better to pay a little bit, let's say, to slow a bit these governance things down in order to allow people to do some kind of adoption. But you should know that with some of the prohibited practices and some of the high risk AI usage, you know, and when we say high risk, we do not mean that this is bad AI usage. It means that when you have high risk for something, you have to take care of some of the controls to make sure that this high risk usage is it's done with control. So you have enough, let's say, evidences, you have the transparency, you have the security around this usage of the AI. So you just need to understand. It's like working with the sensitive information. I mean, it's not bad that you're working with sensitive information, but it's important to understand that when you're working with sensitive information, you have to put a little bit more controls in order to make sure it is secure.
It's mostly validation and predicting a bit of the outcomes, because AI presents a unique challenge that we've never seen before, especially for the completely non-deterministic models, where there's a lot of reasoning that's involved, and you don't really know what the outcome would be. And if your business relies on a specific outcome every time, like healthcare, finance, you have to adopt a practice where the output gets validated. There are all sorts of controls that need to be in line with that type of adoption. So that's what I think the AI Act is trying to highlight, the risks mostly, because obviously for everyone the excitement is there, but they want to show what this means as a negative impact to you if that goes this way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and if we can, I don't know, maybe to summarize the things that the company can do right now, is first starting with the creation of the AI inventory. So you should know what kind of AI tools you're using, who is using them, for which business process you use them, what data is involved in that. As we discussed, it's really important to think about the data, to understand if it's personal or if it's confidential or if it's regulated even. We have to think about also how the AI output and what the AI produces, it's impacting our employees, but also our customers. So yeah, things like if the usage of AI is used internally or externally in the company. So I would say that the AI Act, as mentioned multiple times, is starting with the visibility, with the transparency of what you have in terms of AI and how this applies to the companies. The second question that you should ask is to classify the use cases where you're using the AI. So think about if this is something prohibited, or if it's high risk or low risk. Do this require transparency? Because using the AI, for example, with external customers, in some cases, actually in most cases, would require you to make sure that people know that they are involved with interaction with the AI tool behind the scene. Also, third thing I would say is to define the ownership. So each AI use case within your organization should have the business owner, technical owner, data owner, who is responsible for the security. It should be, not like these hot potatoes, like we like to say that, okay, this is not my responsibility, we have security team. Of course, sometimes you can, with appropriate strategy, you can have this covered much better, but most of the challenges, I would say, with the EU AI Act are for the SMB segment. Large enterprises, they have the specific teams, they already done this very controlled way. It's not that big challenge, but for small companies where you have like 20, 50 people, no, of course it's a challenge, but for 20, 50 people, which we see already, they start buying, enterprise licenses for both from OpenAI, from Anthropic. This is a challenge because nobody is responsible for this part within the company. Who will prepare the organization for this? They do not have data owner, like someone specific for security, CISO or whatever. So that's why it's important, this initiative, to have this segregation, who is responsible for what within the.
And the small businesses feel the pressure to adopt AI because they see how much potential it has to cut down on their cost and maybe not hire more people, but instead using the same people, they can do more. So they are pressured to use AI internally. I mean, it usually comes from their owners or people who run them as managers. They want to use AI, and they may sacrifice or neglect the risks and adopt AI. And this is what the well, they should have made it easier to pronounce. The AI Act wants to address and wants to highlight to these folks that
and that's why it's made it on stages, and that's why they delayed some of the stages, because it's well aligned with the level of adoption. So as we mentioned, to have enough time to have good level of adoption. So we said as a first and most important tip to have the inventory of the AI, the use cases and where you use them. But it would be very hard to understand all of this if you do not have enough knowledge within your organization. So it's really important to pay some, to make sure that people, and to identify these use cases. This will not be possible without having people the right knowledge to understand the risk, to understand the AI, to understand the base principles, to understand how they can use the actual tools appropriately, how this is impacting people. So the training and making sure that people within your organization who is working or you plan to work with the AI, they are well trained, not only on their domain, but they're trained also on the fundamentals. They understand what this hallucination means, to understand that sometimes AI may be used for some bad things, and they should know when to, they should know the boundaries where the AI may start harm people. The AI may make mistakes, because people that don't know how to use the tool, they may think that this is appropriate, right? For example, if you give to the HR team members, and we already have such a situation, as we like to say, the appetite comes with the food, with the eating. So when they see what you can do, for example, within the HR company, with all the candidates, start using and pretty quickly they start saying, can we have the camera identifying the behavior of the candidates during the interviews, and doing some analysis and making sure that this is written in their record. That's a bit challenging. That's why it's important people to know the boundaries and where they can fall under some very serious consequences.
Is there something we can do to help people with the UI?
Actually, yeah, of course we can. You will please check in the description below. We created a free assessment that you can have a quick look at what your current state of your organization and how prepared you are with the EU Act. I would say next important things is to have some kind of practical policies. If each organization has some process, from very simple one like make sure you're cleaning the server room or charging the UPS batteries, to some very complex one. But it's good to start with some small processes. Like, I would say the easiest one is what kind of tools are allowed within the organization. This is very basic one. I mean, people are, when your employer or you're as an owner of the business, and when you put some investment for this specific tools, you would like people to get aware of these tools first. And if someone wants to use another tools, to check first how these tools may impact your day-to-day work, how it will impact people, how it will impact your clients, employees, etc. So, and it's also very important to have some kind of policies for the sensitive data. I mean, this is not much related to the AI, but when you provide your company data to the AI, you should be aware what kind of data is good to provide it, to what extent, and to which AI tool. Also, there is a lot of things coming on related to the AI content generation. So you may put some policies on that in multiple use cases, even that if your team generates AI content, or they won't like to check the AI content, you may put some human reviews. This is very frequent, for example, in the IT industry. So when we develop the code, it's good to have some approvals before some gates, etc. Of course, security and privacy reviews. These are also important. Another critical, and the important thing to remember here is that the policies should be usable. I mean, you should build them because of the most common use cases that you have and your most common processes within AI use in your organization. It should not be like, I saw in this pharma company, Fortune 500, and I would like to implement it in my local website, web shop with 20 people, that we should have these 5 policies. You do it, they should be usable. That's and it should not be theoretical, because otherwise people start ignoring it, and you will fight with some low adoption. The other, I would say, the final and really, really important thing is to have this kind of transparency and to have the evidences. So when the AI is used, you should have some kind of inventory and artifacts. So, for example, the training records, some logs, when there were some kind of approval, what was approved, by who was approved, some human record, some, I don't know, when you have some incident maybe. You should be able to prove on every time, especially on the high risk AI, but even on the low risk AI, you should be able to prove that you're using AI responsibly. Low risk, high risk, it doesn't matter, because if you don't have this kind of transparency and evidences to prove it, at some point you may become like people may think that you're using it in a wrong way, or actually you may using it and very, how to say, without any high risk. But when you cannot prove it, that would be a big challenge. So you have to think about this evidence and proof part. It's like, when you have the record in every single accounting company, or your accountant, there is a reason why you keep all of these papers, fortunately, these papers within these books, because this is proof that you did this right and responsibly. It's pretty similar to the AI.
You are responsible for a person that's not actually a person, so you need to be able to verify its work, and because ultimately the company makes a decision to adopt a technology, and it needs to kind of govern that decision as well.
Yeah. So that's why the things that you can do with the EU AI Act in order to be ready is, first of all, to make sure that your people are aware. So you can, you can do some training and make sure that people are using the tools appropriately and responsibly. Of course, you can. You don't have to see this only as a restriction. I mean, this is. I would say this is a signal that actually the AI is becoming real business operations, like for every business, not only for large organization. So
and very fast.
It's very fast, and a company should not wait, for example, because as we mentioned, this was delayed multiple times, especially the high risk related terms for the EU AI Act was delayed, because to give people time in order exactly to put some investment in their team members to do some trainings and understand how to use the AI. So this connects us again. If you'd like to do an assessment in your company and to check where you are, link would be in the description below. And last topic for today, which is I would say very close to what we discussed about the importance of the governance, is
and the tools before that.
And the tools before that, and actually the training before that. It's we would like to announce that actually we are open now, and we start providing this kind of offering to our clients. But the main thing is we start working with the agents in 2023, when there were baby AI, AutoGPT. And we've been using it during that time very heavily AutoGen. So that actually was the reason where the AI topologies framework was born, and which was about structuring your agents in a way that would do the specific job most efficiently. So if you have how much agent you would need, how this agent should be organized, one-to-many, one-to-one communication, all of this is really important in order to have this kind of efficient way of solving problem. After that, we combine and we built on top of this all of the best practices related to how we build software, how we build deliver solution, in short, software development life cycle. And this help us to create as called adaptive agentic engineering framework, and the first version of it. So this is not like just a layer which you put on how to orchestrate the agents, which was the first thing, but it's also best practices of how this agent should be configured. We've been using this a lot for building, actually this was the main driver for building all of the solutions that we've been doing for our clients. And since we've been asked multiple times for our clients to start integrating things and to be able to develop this kind of solution themselves, we decided to start providing this as a service. So now we are at the second version of this, and it's called OpenAI engineering framework, which is in short combination of best practices, which can help you solve based on your specific domain challenges, and to put this kind of governance layer when we're talking about governance, to switch from the vibe coding and to the, how to say, this amplification, I would say. For example, when you give these tools to the developers or to the other team members, they're using these tools, but they are not, they're multiple layer of, how to say, efficiency, I would say, that you can use these tools. And when you combine the, exactly the best practices of how in the specific domain, for example, the software development lifecycle, when you combine the best practices with the with the processes within your organization, with the domains within your organization, you have something like this. Few of the things that we can share is so this framework provides you with a very governed and efficient way of using the models. For example, you have to understand for each, because there are a lot of workflows, I would say, in internet, which are very good. You know, I have this step, this step, this step, this step, and in each of these steps there are things that happen. But it's not only, as I said, about the orchestrating the workflow. It's about the components within the workflow and how you do the orchestration. Because, for example, why you should spend tokens of the orchestration when you know which kind of steps you would require. You may use. So it's really important to combine the deterministic with non-deterministic way of usage of the software and the solution of the AI, to put the AI where it's finessed, I would say. So let's say we have an example with software development lifecycle, and you have the initial step could be let's say you have some kind of issue. You need to identify if this issue is some complex one, or it is a bug, or it is a chore, or it's something that will not require much effort. You have to research, for example, you may research a little bit more what is involved in this issue. So you start thinking, okay, in this, let's say, even these two phases, which model I should use? Do I use the most powerful model? Do I use some, more cost-effective model? So, and it's important because we're discussing that companies are the adoption now, it's in good extent, but they should start thinking about the efficiency, because the tokens becoming more and more expensive. Of course, the models are more capable, but this is pretty similar with the electricity. When you have more and more capable, actually you start using more. So when you start using more, you should start thinking about how I can use it efficiently. And it is not efficient to use the most expensive models for things which are not that important. Another example to give is that how much faces I would run. For example, for complex tasks, I would like to have more faces with more gates, with let's say more reviews, different angles of reviews, especially when involving multiple systems, work on multiple systems. For smaller tasks, there should be some kind of fast path. So it's important.
It's very similar when you're giving work to junior engineers and senior engineers or developers. You probably distribute the task based on complexity and experience.
Exactly. So, and it's pretty similar here with the models, and not only the models, but with the actual what kind of steps I would take to solving each of these, and how this would be automatic. And it's another important. We've been talking about the governance, about the security. In each of these steps, what the models can do, what involved, not models, the agents, what kind of access in each of these steps agent have. Should be the same? No, it should be different because each of these steps have some very specific things that needs to be done. Also important thing is how people are managing context window. These are some very, I would say, fine-tuned, small details that can have huge impact in your work. For example, when you have everything running at once, you give the entire work, you have very good workflow. Like we plan, we implement, review, test, document, whatever, and you run this at once in a model which is, for example, 240K.
Or even a million.
Even a million. Yeah, it will start compacting, and so it's very important to make your agent sharps as well. And for example, even for one phase, you may involve multiple agents because they may have different responsibilities in your repository. Another very interesting concept that we also implement in this framework that we created is this expertise and this expert agents which are focused on their specific domain. For example, to have someone which is working for the databases, someone which is focusing on the DevOps part, someone which is focusing on the let's say the API part of your solution, etc., etc. Depending on the model, on the domain that you're using, of course, this can be translated to many others domains. So it's really important to have these highly effective specialized agents which can do the specific job. They are aware how to do it, and it's very important at the end. So you created your workflow, you created your system that can build and that can be highly efficient. But it's very important to think how this system can evolve with the time. For example, when you do some tasks, you have to make sure that the agents, your specialized agents, they remember how they solved the problems last time. They should not reinvent the wheel and wasting tokens for doing, let's say, the same thing. For example, database migration. You should not, your agent, when done, your specialized agent responsible for the database should know how to do that. And if there are some challenges, the agent should have this kind of memory layer. It could be multiple memory layers, like short memory, long memory, depending of the level of complexity of the task that they should do. So with this framework and with this, I would say, best practices combined during the years, we would like to help organization to put this kind of governance. When we are saying governance, we're talking about cost efficiency, speed, security, and in general, efficient use. If we can combine all of this efficient use of the Gen AI with multiple domains, not only with software development lifecycle.
It will be good to mention that we actually built this for ourselves.
Exactly, but I mentioned that we are building this to build all of our solutions because we are not coming from the software industry. We have background more from the infrastructure, cloud, but in nowadays we can do. I mean, we are doing very successfully whatever software we would like. We even have some very interesting mobile application for motorhome owners. We'll put the link in the description as well to have a look. So we can consider ourselves as very good in Swift.
Yeah.
Using,
And no, it's
Yes.
something that we want to build for us to solve a specific problem. So we treat it as a tool that we validated internally.
multiple times.
Yes, and we feel it will have benefits to others as
Yeah.
well, because we all have similar problems if you think about it. It's not like
Yeah.
we are unique or anything.
And of course, you can try the vibe coding, but yeah, this is not vibe coding. I mean, this will not get you to the efficient use of AI, especially if you'd like to build some more serious, something that you can actually someone may use for your internal usage. Of course, you can do.
Yeah.
It's not important, but when you have a lot of clients, a lot of teams that are working on that, then it's really important.
Yeah. And that's how you would win sort of belief, and you would win the others, because everybody can send a prompt to one of the current tools, but that's not enough to put it into production, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll do some specific session to the OAI engineering framework. So, but you may already check link in the description below. Right. So I think that's
Wow.
all for today.
Compacted so much information into an hour. So yeah, it's we want to do these more often, as we said, but now it's a little challenging at the moment to do this. But we have not given up. With the group, we still want to do this. And we want to probably invite more people to speak, but probably we won't be able to do this as often as we wanted before. So
our next session we'll try to do it in October. So stay tuned.
Yep.
Super.
Thank
you
you
very much.